What's your name, son?
My name is Willy Wonka.
Who are your people?
Mom's and Dad's. Dad? Papa?
Solo. Approved.
You're really weird.
Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Open Yawn, the podcast where we shall attempt to bore you with our opinion. I am Wyatt.
And I am Emmett.
Alright, so, more than a little while ago, Warner Brothers announced the official release date after several months of teasing the project for the Willy Wonka origin story, Wonka, now scheduled for release on March 17th, 2023.
But will it stay there?
Will it stay there? We'll find out. And I would not expect this to be a theatrical exclusive date either, but remaining somewhat optimistic for a sec, let's just assume that it is. But with this information, I found there to be more than a few hecklers on the internet, just that at the sheer prospect of a Willy Wonka origin story prequel. And to that I say, nay, you hecklers. I can see the full or hidden potential of this project, and so I would like to take this podcast as an opportunity to share my thoughts.
And I'm glad that you have thoughts, because I had none.
Okay, awesome.
This is the first time I didn't have any notes. This
so,
week went so fast I couldn't prepare.
Okay, so I hope I shall enlighten you then.
Enlighten me, brother.
Alright, so a brief recap on the theatrical history of one Willy Wonka. As many should probably know, that there have already been two major iterations of the children's classic Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, written by Roald Dahl. The first, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, released in 1971, starring Gene Wilder, is usually considered one of the great family film classics. And then several decades later, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, directed by Tim Burton, starring Johnny Depp, was released in 2005, which these days is often seen as a blight on the theatrical landscape. To me, and I would assume also you, Emmett, I consider it to be one of the shining lights of the cinematic landscape. Very unpopular opinion.
It is weird how unpopular that opinion is.
Yeah, to me, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is, like, frankly, just one of my favorite films ever made.
It really just comes down to what you grow up with, I think. Most people grew up with the old one.
I want to say, yeah, that's true, but I too grew up with the old one. Okay, so how that went about, like, my early childhood years, like the first decade of my life, I had seen Willy Wonka more than a few times. Like, usually it was playing on TV around Thanksgiving or something. And, like, I don't remember ever being particularly engaged with it. Like, not like something like Wizard of Oz, where it's like that's on and it's like, okay, you're glued from start to finish. Like, as a kid, if anything's on TV, like, you try to pay attention, but like certain things that work to its detriment, like Charlie's mom's song.
Cheer up, Charlie, do.
Bravo! Well done. Aren't they delightful? Aren't they charming?
Would then maybe break the magical bond between child and TV and make me, okay, I'm gonna go find a cookie and then I'll go play and then I'll never come back. But
It doesn't help maintain the illusion.
yeah. But I'm sure more than once would have to watch it at school also. And like the same thing, like, oh, it's a movie. Okay, I don't have to do schoolwork. That's fine. So all right. But
Hey, it's a movie.
the second the book was recommended as in school reading, that like completely changed my mind about the first movie. It went from being like fine passing entertainment to being just a complete disappointment compared to the book. That even as a kid, I was like, some of the magic got lost along the way, like just failed to capture the pure imagination and inventiveness of the book. For me, child me, like 10-year-old me thought this. And so when they first started sharing images and promo material for Tim Burton's movie, then as a kid I was very excited for it, but was not allowed to see it right away because it looked a little too dark. It looked a little too
Scary for the
creepy.
children.
But yeah, the second I saw that movie for the first time, just like it frankly blew my little child mind. And after rewatch after rewatch, I keep expecting that magic to be lost, that spell to be broken. And so far it never has. Like, it's actually just kind of gotten better for me. But yeah, when it comes to creating a new original story for a previously established fictional character, like, I understand why some would be a little troubled at that idea. Like, for one, like, why milk the franchise more? To that I say it's been like over 15 years since the last Wonka movie. It'll be, 18 years by the time it actually gets released, if not more. Just assuming it'll be pushed in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
That maybe they scheduled it that far in advance to kind of get a leg up over COVID world. We'll see.
We will see.
But yeah, to me, it all kind of comes down to, when making that kind of choice, is the character that you're giving his solo origin interesting enough to warrant his own movie? And to that, I say more than yes, that more than passes the test. But so a few things that have me more than a little excited for this. If they had any other choice of director, like someone I wasn't that familiar with, or someone who had done like a passable project, like I wouldn't be that excited. But they have Paul King attached to direct. Who is Paul King? Paul King is the director of Paddington 1 and Paddington 2.
Right.
So the thing about the Paddington movies, they are, in my opinion, immaculately directed children's fantasies.
Yeah.
First Paddington has a 97%. Second Paddington has a 100% on Rotten
Still,
Tomatoes.
That makes sense.
Is
That's
considered the best reviewed movie ever made, just by those statistics. So that's impressive. The Paddington movies are just so fun and so charming, and what do you know? We're based off children's books.
Yeah.
So to me, that seems like a match made in heaven for this project. But similarly, both Wonka Now and the first Paddington movie, before it came out, like, just its posters, both the posters and the trailers were like just absolutely ridiculed online.
Huh.
Like, I remember the creepy Paddington memes, like the people putting him in like serial killer poses.
Paddington,
and
really.
They,
Like
they
with
thought
the,
Paddington looked so creepy.
with the posters for Christopher Robin and the grungy redesign of Pooh. It's like that makes sense to like give him red eyes and have him be horror Pooh. But,
they did the exact same
but
thing
Paddington
previously.
doesn't make as much sense.
Especially in retrospect. But
Yeah.
What's going on? Why are you looking at me like that? It's awful hot in here. Are you hot? I'm hot. Did I leave the oven on?
It's called a hard stare. Aunt Lucy taught me to do them when people had forgotten their manners.
Yeah, and like everyone worried about the fact that like the trailers like almost completely highlighted the literal bathroom humor. And then we find out, oh, you know what? Like, living in this day and age of just the sheer amount of lame and horrible CGI hybrid family comedies, like, it was marketed like that to kind of not scare them away.
Smurfs.
Because it was actually not that at all, and was a real story with great characters and just wholesome family entertainment that everyone should check out eventually. That has me very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, to everyone who's mocking the idea of just asking why wouldn't you? Let me just pitch you this, like on the most basic of elevator pitches. What is wrong with the idea of a film on the same production level as, say, a Paddington that chronicles the rise and fall, then rise again, of a chocolate empire? Like, just on a basic premise level, isn't that like, yeah, why not make that movie? Like, to me, it is not like a Solo where it's like, okay, like Solo is a character that like we all learned to love him like during the events of Star Wars, but like we basically know what he is already. He's a scoundrel space pirate.
Or it's not like a theoretical John McClane origin where it's like the point of Die Hard is that
oh boy,
it's Die Hard. That was the biggest thing that has
past
happened.
of that character be that interesting? If the whole point of the first movie was this was the most interesting thing that happened to him. The thing about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the events of that story are the most important things that have happened to Charlie up to that point. That there's so much more going on with Willy that is like merely only teased. And like there's so much mystery there.
Originally thinking origin, part of my first thought was actually, didn't they already give us kind of his origin?
Okay,
But there would be plenty of like that middle ground.
Exactly. Like Tim Burton's version changed things around a bit from the book and introduced the backstory of him and his Christopher Lee dentist father, which I personally think was an excellent change, but I know others disagree, because it doesn't hurt the flow of the story any. Like
It fits the world very well.
Yeah, it helps flesh him out as a character more, because otherwise he's just a kooky guy who dances around and does backflips, I guess, or somersaults for the children, and then slowly murders them one by one. But my hope and dream would be scrap all that. Like, don't dive back into that well, like something it looks like they're doing with the upcoming Cruella origin story. That's going to be all about the relationship with her parents that forced her into
pull
this
a DC
life.
where you always have to show the children.
Yeah, right. My hope would be that they like you could still show elements of his childhood, but like nix a familial backstory at all. Like keep that out of there. Like make it solely focused on him as a character and the events building up to the story we all know.
And going back to the like something about the specific wording when you were talking about the rise and fall of the Chocolate Empire.
Yes.
What popped into my head? Charlie, are we in the Chocolate Empire business or are we in the money business?
Danger, what is that?
Charlie, we're gonna make crystal blue chocolate.
Okay, thank you. No, okay. Put a pin in that. We'll come back to that way of thinking. But okay. Here is a quick, though in theory, like a not so quick rundown of why you should totally make this movie. Okay, so everything we know about the backstory of Willy Wonka that could make more, like, to me, like, this is the last thing I'd ever want them to announce, but to me, there's like almost enough material in here for a Willy Wonka origin trilogy.
Yeah.
Like, if you really want to flesh it out, because it really is fascinating. Okay, so what do we know about Willy Wonka and his previous business dealings? We know there has been corporate espionage. You could dive into that.
Uh-huh.
Again, that alone, the corporate espionage of a candy factory, like that could be enough by itself to drive a movie. But
and
no,
a candy factory as crazy as Wonka.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It makes sense that people would want to break in and figure out what's going on with it.
And as groundbreaking, he's like literally like the Walt Disney of the candy realm. That's just doing new things that nobody else has seen, and they all want to get their hands on them. Like, that is great. But no, you've got more. You've got years of scouring the globe for hidden candy-making secrets. That is interesting. All while also fending off fantastical beasts.
Uh-huh.
Again, an element that was, like, merely hinted at in both the book and the 05 version that you could totally do more with.
Yeah.
Like when he has to convince an entire class of little Oompa Loompa people to join him in his quest of building his chocolate empire. Like, whether you want to do something cool like, oh, he has to rescue them from these savage beasties, that's why again in the 05 version they're living in trees, otherwise they'll get picked off and eaten.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
And like, he's obviously an inventive and clever dude, so if you do fun stuff with that where like don't turn him into an action hero, you have to throw him into these crazy and perilous events, and then what would a character like this do to outsmart everything else around him and pull out of the situation?
And then what weird things would he do along the way?
Exactly.
Because, like, I know as much dislike as Charlie gets, the focal point of it is Johnny Depp's performance. But I really... Like, to me, the last thing you should ever do with Willy Wonka is make him boring.
Exactly. No, he has to be quirky to the max.
Yeah.
Zany to the max.
And I don't know. I've always kind of had a soft spot for Johnny's performance.
Yeah, like, now I'm totally down with it. That it's whether you're willing to accept that this is going to be completely different from Wilder's.
Yes.
And it's funny, we keep going back to this current age of getting stale remake after stale remake. I'd rather see someone try something completely crazy new, and whether it works or fails, at least they tried.
Yeah.
And then, again, the fact that we've got the Paddington director working on this, And in the Paddington movies, we only got the very briefest of time spent in the jungles of Peru with those bears.
Yeah.
And the effects work on those scenes, like, it is, like, pretty first rate.
Definitely.
So if you can, like, I'm assuming these would be working on a much larger budget than Paddington's.
And then now I'm connecting to that. Oh, the guy who gave us Hugh
Grant
the guy who gave us crazy Hugh Grant villain.
could give us another character like that.
Yeah.
See,
just channel that energy for Willy Wonka. That's what you need.
that's what I'm so excited about. Like, all I want is just a fun, crazy, smart, wonderfully produced family adventure movie. And since he's already done those, surely it wouldn't be too hard to make it work again.
Hopefully.
But yeah, there's a lot of potential there. And hopefully with someone known for producing smartly made children's movies, that they'll be able to carefully trend around. Like, I know many people out there already kind of take offense at the idea that the Oompa Loompa Wonka relationship is basically indentured servitude.
Yeah.
So find a clever way around that. Like, yeah, either, like, if they're just a simpler race, like, they just pledge unfounding loyalty after him rescuing them from savage beasties, or just he finds out, oh, along my travels, all I wanted was to find someone who's as in love with chocolate and candy as I am, and then an entire race of people that are like, yeah, you love chocolate,
and especially
we love chocolate, let's band together and
thinking
change the world with our chocolate.
Thinking of Willy Wonka as a fairly antisocial character anyway, I've always thought it would make sense that, oh, I don't like people, I'm just going to find my own people and work with them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, just basically in turn becoming the king of the chocolatiers. His Willy Wonka fan club. And for me, an example of how to do something like this right would be Klaus, which is also a pretty shining example of a kind of origin story prequel-ish, like how it all started kind of thing, that finds some very fresh, clever ways of presenting a well-known, well-established character. But the way they have those local, like,
Inuits or something.
Yeah,
like
whatever they are.
they have a specific word for them, but I can't remember what they are.
That all comes about by the one simple act of kindness that they make a gift for one of their children, and then they are just so enamored and grateful by this that they just decide, hey, we're gonna help you now. We're gonna be your elves. You don't really have anything to say about it, but here we are, and like there's a way to do that too. And then you could delve into, like, obviously no one else in the world knows about the existence of Oompa Loompas. So what do you got to do to sneak an army of Oompa Loompas out of whatever country they're in? Well, Loompa Land, of course.
There's no such place.
What?
But back to whatever country Charlie and the Chocolate Factory takes place. Like, that's not like that's what I love about the '05 version. Like, it's kind of its own little world. Like, it obviously takes place in the real world, but it still feels like just a fantasy realm almost. Like, basically, it's kind of Britain, it's kind of America. But anyway, there's even more than that. We know that he's partaken in overseas business dealings, like with the whole Prince Pondicherry story. Was there anything more than that? Like, can you come up with some even better and more inventive ideas? That,
yeah, like, I assume a prince doesn't just randomly think, I want to, like, that chocolate guy, I want to have him make me a chocolate castle. Like, there's probably been other situations where someone asked for something and then he just, like, one-upped him because he didn't know the logistics of it.
Yeah, surely.
So
And maybe putting a clever spin on that, like he decides he has to kind of extend his talents out to the uber rich and wealthy to acquire the amount of wealth needed to make his own mega factory. Like, guys, be really, really clever about all this. You could make all of this work. You just have to have a smart screenplay. Like, kids will automatically be enamored by just shiny, happy chocolate factory. But you could lure in any other adult with just make the plot specifics pop.
Yeah.
And then the whole idea of just having fun with the trial and error of essentially Wonka being a candy-coated mad scientist. That he's doing things no one has ever even remotely thought of concerning candy. Like, you could show the origins and creations of, like, fan favorite candies from the books and ones we might already even eat in real life, like Gobstoppers. Again, be smart about it and come up with some new inventive candy concepts. That you could have a lot of fun with this. If you just treat the entire process as just you, the makers, being a kid in a candy store, like, as a kid with all these opportunities, what would I want to see?
Yeah.
Like, just fill it with magic, fill it with fun.
I just want someone to try. Just have creativity, please.
Again, I feel like it's been so long, especially in the family film realm. So yeah, just again, you don't have to be as good as Paddington. Like, even if you're half as good as Paddington, that still means you're, like, pretty good. And then you could have all of this culminate in what I will pretty much call the Better Call Saul route. So, Emmett, you have not, as of yet, gotten to Better Call Saul.
Yes.
So, I would hope that you would not mind me sharing story points, not spoilers. Like, I hope you're not too worried about just like, hey, what is the primary focus of season 4? Oh, season 4 is about ... Okay. That wouldn't upset you too much. So yeah, anyone else who cares about any of that, beware. But so Mike's main storyline in Better Call Saul season 4 involves what would be the trials and tribulations of building a secret underground meth lab. That's when Gus hires him to pick out the crew and get the job done, and it must all be hidden. How exactly do you go about doing that? So just replace that
with
like
lab.
the fairly small scale hidden laundromat meth lab with a chocolate utopia. Doesn't that sound amazing?
Yes,
because no one has a clue what is in that factory.
Yeah, laying
there's
it all
so
out
much.
there. These are some juicy ideas. You got me excited.
Yeah, how exactly would one construct an entire high-tech kingdom underground? And again, like, just show me trial and error stuff. Like, everything that looks so like beautiful and wondrous. Like, what if it took more than a few tries to like get the chocolate river flowing?
I feel like that reminds me of something, but I can't remember what it is.
Elevator. How do you set up the elevator?
Yeah.
Like, this could just be like such high concept, high quality fantasy that like maybe we've never really seen before.
Yeah. Just go big, please.
And I feel like I'm setting myself up for disappointment. Like, again, if it was anyone else attached to direct, like someone who hadn't already proved their worth, then I'd be quite a bit more trepidatious.
Yeah.
But
Honestly, the way things have seemed to generally work, I'm surprised they didn't just pull in a complete newcomer or nobody or someone who had done like one thing but in a completely different genre. It's weird to see a situation where they pick someone who is accurate,
who's competent,
who's apt, who did something that could very well just be a precursor to this project.
See, that's why I have so much hope that they did that on purpose. They're like, okay, you made Paddington, give us Paddington. We want Paddington. People loved Paddington. So just do that again. And since it's still like it's not like, okay, you directed Paddington, now we want you to make us, I don't know, a Curious George movie or something. It doesn't have the potential of feeling like, oh, you've been there and done that. This is just kind of a lesser Paddington. Like, hopefully it's fresh enough that it keeps your creative juices going while you're working on a project like this.
Yeah.
But yeah, that makes me think of like when they first announced just the mere fact that a new Doolittle movie was happening. And I'm like, okay, Dr. Doolittle, Robert Downey Jr., good. I like that. Who's directing? And I'm like, this guy's only done, as far as I know, like kind of bland adult dramas. You're getting him for a
Lively Kids Adventure?
Exactly. Yeah, Lively Kids Adventure. I don't see it, but hopefully that means like it'll have some layer of gravitas then and take itself a little more seriously. And then apparently it did, and they hated that. So they reshot most of it and scrapped it up and chopped it up.
And look where it got you.
We got the product that we did because they did not have faith in who they got. So
why'd you hire him in the first place?
So that everything we're saying there, I'm hoping with that
didn't have any balls.
It's different here.
Yes.
That they hired him because they have faith that he'll deliver the goods, and he has more than proven that he can.
Yes.
So just let him alone, and hopefully he'll make some wonderful candy magic.
Candy magic. Like Matt Reeves' Batman.
Exactly. See? Okay, see. The last few years, there have been more than a few stories of Warner Brothers kind of micromanaging a lot of their bigger blockbuster projects. But then here recently, something like Batman that everyone involved is really excited about, and what we've seen has made me really excited for it. And it seems like they just, hey, Matt Reeves, we hired you because we know you can do what you do, so do that, and we'll be good.
Just do it.
Pretty much.
Don't let your dreams be dreams.
Exactly. And then, a couple little kind of pitches for something nice and cute you could do in a story like this. Like hopefully counteracting like the whole idea with origin stories of, oh, how did this character get this? How did they get from here to there, point A to point B kind of thing? Like that isn't always automatically a bad thing. Like it can lead to very dumb examples like Solo and, oh, how did Solo meet Chewie? Oh, they were both in a pit. How did he get his gun?
Yeah, how did he get his gun?
He needed a gun, and he got it. What did you say?
What? Do we care?
Yeah. Exactly.
How did he get his gun? How did the Falcon get that notch cut out of it?
The notch, I didn't even realize I was supposed to know the Falcon had a notch in it. Because I'm not a freaking nerd. No, I'm joking. And again, I present to you Better Call Saul as an example how you can do exactly that, but make it meaningful to the story and the characters. Like, I can't believe how well that worked when it shouldn't have. Like how Salamanca got his bell for his wheelchair. It's like, who cares? But when they do that, it's like, no, yeah, I like that. No, thank
got
you.
me intrigued.
It's very good stuff. So yeah, like, again, just do the Better Call Saul way. Like, to me, I'm like, take the familiar aspects that we know and just like work a clever twist in there. Like, what if, like, at the beginning of the movie, if we start with a young, still child Wonka that has, like, not quite grasped how crazy about candy he's gonna be, and like say there's just a quaint little local candy shop that just happens to be hosting like a much smaller scale contest than the golden ticket, but like just a cute little local candy contest. And then Wonka ends up just by happenstance winning it. And then that kind of like jolts, hey, I like candy. Candy's cool. And then like then as the movie goes on, you kind of forget about that. And then by the end of the movie, oh, wait, remember candy contest. And then later on down the road, then work that into when he, how would he get the idea for the golden ticket? Wouldn't it just make sense that it's linked to a memory of his youth?
If he's looking for his own successor.
Yeah, that their love for candy would be triggered by a similar event or experience. Just do something nice and do something smart.
Yeah.
And hey, another reason this movie should be made, Grandpa Joe. We know Grandpa Joe's around to some extent in Wonka's backstory.
Like he actually interacted with him in one of his first shops.
Yeah, like so you could either have him be like in a charming little mentor role, or at least like the role of a respected employee that like maybe obviously he and Wonka weren't that close, but like still create the opportunity for like Wonka to be able to remember him just by the virtue of him being a good person.
Yeah.
That like, and you could have a couple good conversations from that, and just in little ways, Grandpa Joe affecting the way Willy Wonka proceeds in his life. That there's so much you can do. But what you've got to be careful with, please, for the love of all things holy, don't go overboard with the nostalgia bait.
Nostalgia bait.
Like anytime there's a reference to original events, like don't stop and wink at the camera. Don't have an over the top and obvious musical cue that oh, this is important. Like working it in either subtly, or if you're gonna be more obvious about it, just clever.
Make it important to the actual plot of the story.
Yeah. Like I am absolutely not against the idea of incorporating like music cues from the original soundtrack. I actually think you should do that, but do it well. Get a first-rate composer to work those songs into the score.
Yeah.
In a meaningful and hopefully beautiful way. I love movie soundtracks. So anything new and neat you can do with that, please. But yeah, the main thing, I'm like, I really hope you guys have some kind of an idea of how you want to handle the Oompa Loompas.
Yeah.
Because, like, I'm worried about they're just going to really, because, again, like, now this is the main aspect of the last one where it is very much an example of that was the one I grew up with. So I really adore Deep Roy's Oompa Loompas,
Absolutely.
while everyone else hated that.
And
It seemed
I
like
don't understand.
I
Like, it has to be
I hate
just
the original orange
growing up
green
because
haired one.
those things are ugly and
like
they do not
absolutely no offense meant to the actors portraying them, just the
Yeah, I mean, anybody you
the
put them in
actual
that makeup and
concept.
costume, and they're
Yeah,
gonna look
like
stupid.
it don't do nothing for me. I don't know.
And especially, yeah, I really hope this is more of a reimagining than a oh, we just want to make a prequel to Willy Wonka.
Just like Tim Burton did, make it your own thing. But like, I don't blame you for if you want to try to figure out why exactly people are put off by Burton's so much.
Or just screw them and make it full. Maybe not. Yeah, don't go full Burton. Yeah, because thinking of it was more fantastical and exploring him meeting the Oompa Loompas. Like, those Oompa Loompas would not work in that situation. Mm-hmm. Unless it's part of the deal with Willy that he forces them into makeup, which
That
honestly,
would be creepy.
I wouldn't put it past him. Because, like, as charming as Gene Wilder is, that actual version of the character himself, to me, has always seemed more psychotic.
I completely concur. Because it seems at times I'm like, do people not fully realize that like Depp is portraying him as an incredibly broken man?
Uh-huh.
Like he acts weird because he's not all there. Like he had a psychotic break in his youth, and this is what happens to someone who experienced that.
Yeah, like Gene's always makes me think slightly more psychopath, while Depp makes me think more like autistic.
Yeah.
Where instead of being cold and calculating and like he knows what's going on, he's just completely oblivious and doesn't even think about how other people work. He's just going along with it. Kind of naive. Like, I've always liked the almost childlike nature. Like, he literally hasn't grown up. So that's why he's able to make all of these wacky childlike ideas work.
And
because
then
he's still a child at heart.
The idea of a full-grown adult who thinks he's still a child, that would be weird.
Yeah.
Like, everyone involved knows exactly what they're doing, so that's why I'm so confused why everyone else seems so put off by it.
Yeah.
That they're not in on the joke.
Uh-huh.
Of course, it doesn't hurt that I've watched it like 30 times, so kind of pick up on those little things.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I'm worried about either going too far in the nostalgic recreation direction or doing a complete 180 and doing like leaning into star power or something. And can't you imagine them casting 100 Kevin Harts as Oompa Loompas?
What the? Oh, don't put that image in my head.
Like, okay, you guys aren't that crazy about like maybe an up and comer as Willy Wonka. What if we got Kevin Hart in there, and not just Kevin Hart, but Kevin Hart being so crazy, and like there's 5,000 Kevin Harts just singing and dancing.
Don't.
Can't you see it though? See, that's why I'm like, if it was any other, like if they had gotten the Raja Gosnell from the Smurfs and Scooby Doo, that infamous director, Beverly Hills Chihuahua, like all the lamest children's movies you can imagine, he's behind. Like someone like that, I could see like just leaning into the worst areas you could go. But that's not what I want anyway.
Like, it would be hard to figure out the exact right way.
Because I don't know what you do, but like I'll know it when I see it. again, lean into the charm, like Klaus.
Yeah.
Like, just have him be nice and not off-putting, like Kevin Hart's face on a bunch of little CGI
Where do you
bodies.
keep getting this? Why do you keep saying that?
He just wants to forget. Let him forget. Let it fester and boil inside of you.
And so are you copying something?
No, just
No.
can't you see it?
Oh, I don't want to.
Just Kevin Hart's short.
This is
People know he is. So
Oh.
if they're saying like,
Oh, well,
how
if
do we
those are the-
portray short, goofy little?
if those are the rules we're
characters.
following, get Tom Cruise in there.
Okay, you just sold me on that. I mean, you sold everyone on that. Oh, Wonka? Who's playing Wonka? I don't know. Oh, Tom Cruise as every Oompa Loompa? Okay, now you can make them orange. I'm fine with that. I've completely changed my mind.
and
I'm good.
he does his own stunts, so he'll
Yeah,
he'll
flip
make
it
all of his own
backwards
chocolate.
and-
I don't know if doing your own stunts qualifies as
He'll become
method
an
actor, but-
expert chocolate maker
Yeah.
just for that role. He will literally restructure his genetic DNA so he can split himself apart into 100 different Tom Cruises just so he can fulfill his
What?
Okay, so speaking of casting, we are recording this February 11th, so hopefully we won't have horrible luck, as tends to happen with me in life, that by the weekend before I have this video out, though, oh yeah, Willy Wonka, we just cast it, and it's like, oh, you couldn't have done that 2 days earlier, but as of now, the initial casting rumors are that they're looking at Tom Holland and Timothy Sadboy Chalamet. And for that, like, they are 24 and 25, respectfully. To me, in theory, that's not that young, but Tom Holland just seems so much younger.
Yeah.
And so does Chalamet. I guess they're older actors that can play much younger than they actually are. So just I'm like, I don't need Wonka to be that young.
Not for the entire movie, no.
It would
Yeah.
make, I mean, like that's still like not exactly young adult. Like, it's technically like the end of young adulting, kind of, that I would consider. But yeah, my opinion is that doesn't Tom Holland have enough franchises? Like,
Yeah.
if he's already in the
And I
MCU,
feel like-
plus Uncharted has still yet to come out. Like, I don't want to get Tom Holland out.
And I feel like he's not that I would put it past him to break a mold, but like I feel like he's kind of settled into the type of roles that he's been given. So
Yeah, like,
well, like he and Chalamet are very different actors, but neither one of them I think really work for Willy Wonka.
see, yeah, like, Tom's Spider-Man, I've never, like, the one thing holding him back from being possibly the best Spider-Man for me is that he doesn't really give off, like, nerdy like Spider-Man needs to
Yeah.
be, that Maguire more than did. So and like then that leans into, like, okay, how quirky can he sell it then? Because Wonka need be quirky, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
And
and then
I'm not sure. Have
Chalamet
I actually
seems-
seen
Have you seen-
Chalamet? I'm not sure if I've actually seen Chalamet in anything, but I feel like I
they
have.
just
I feel
talk
like,
about him all the time.
I feel like I know him and have seen enough of his face where I'm just like, no, please no.
Just, yeah, to me, he seems a bit too serious. for the role, but he's always playing serious roles. So, I mean, it's funny because just this last weekend was the Super Bowl where we got that ad with him as Edward Scissorhands.
And you say that, and I'm like, okay, see, that's the Johnny Depp role that he seems to fit.
That is, but then it made me realize, is he kind of a young Johnny Depp? Because Depp's early career, like, he wasn't the goofy guy.
Yeah, that's why I was gonna look up.
He almost always played like semi-serious roles.
Yeah, I'm looking up his filmography because I was like, huh, like now that I think about that, when did he start to get crazier?
His very start had to have been with Ed Wood, but I feel like that was kind of like his first foray into really testing his bounds of quirk.
Yeah, and like I barely remember anything about the little we watched of 21 Jump Street, but like that was
he wasn't goofy.
Yeah, like that was like comparing that to Chalamet, like kind of just the serious.
Yeah, aren't they kind of similar?
Heartthrob. That does kind of make sense.
But to me, I feel like there are much more fitting actors you could find.
Yeah, like this isn't young, and was it gonna be animated? But wasn't there something that was gonna be about the universe of Willy Wonka with Taika in charge, like a Netflix animated show or something? I thought you talked about that a while back.
You mentioned that, and it only rings the slightest bell. Like that must have been years ago, like possibly right after Ragnarok, and that must have been a project that never fell through. Because I've never heard a single mention of it.
I thought it was fairly recently. But like you say him as Willy Wonka, and it's like, that makes sense.
Taika is Willy Wonka?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But yeah.
Whoa.
Okay. 21 Jump Street was in the 80s and 90s. Then Scissorhands was 90. And then Benny and June was 93. So that was kind of quirky, but still like very quiet. Then Ed Wood, 94.
Like, it was still more in the Chalamet range than the 2000s Johnny range. But yeah, so here are a few names that I would be more than content with. Some could debatably be a little too old for a young Willy Wonka, but my argument would be if you cast Joaquin Phoenix as your young Joker, like that movie was always pitched as the origin of a young Joker, and I think the character was supposed to be much younger than Joaquin actually is. So he looks so old in that movie though, but
that's a strange choice.
So my options would be Donald Gleason. Like I think he would have a lot of fun. In that role, but
We've
he
had
is
this
37,
before, haven't we?
I've mentioned him to you. He was one of my first. I'm like, I could see him.
I remembered saying that if he took some of his energy from Peter Rabbit and put it in a better material.
See his Peter Rabbit role in a movie from the Paddington guy, then you've got something that's all around amazing instead of his performance in Peter Rabbit being like the greatest thing I've ever seen, but it's still in Peter Rabbit, so it's kind of bittersweet. But like he is an example that can bring the quirk. Who else can bring the quirk? Bill Skarsgård, who I feel was immensely underused as Pennywise. And it would be nice after seeing him play someone that lures kids into traps that lead to the gruesome end, that it'd be a nice change of pace to see him in a role of a guy that lures kids into traps that lead to the gruesome end. But I haven't seen him in that much. But like he's one, if he would be cast, I'd be like, okay, I believe he can bring it.
Yeah. I mean, again, I haven't seen him in anything.
And he's 30, so I feel like that's about the right age I'm thinking of. That like he could still play younger than he actually is. Andrew Garfield, I wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't be my first choice, but again, he's also 37, same as Donal.
Like, thinking if you have to pick a Spider-Man to play Willy Wonka, like, that makes a little more sense.
And just thinking of the energy he brought to Social Network,
Yeah.
if you can do that, but you're a crazy candy maker.
And when you were bringing up the like corporate espionage and stuff like that, for some reason, what popped into my head was like thinking, Social Network, but with chocolate.
See? And for kids, that kids can understand too and not get bored by.
Yeah.
Just, oh boy. And I feel like there are better examples that when I see them, I'll know that they're the right one. But
that's the way I am with casting ideas. I'm never
Yeah.
good at coming up with them off the top of my head. I always just, if I notice something, I'm like, hey, that reminds me of like that person could be that role. So I wasn't able to come up with anything. Really.
But someone I've been just waiting to see, given the opportunity to have like a lead breakout role, because he hasn't exactly broken out yet, is Jack Lowden.
Jack Loud.
Also known as not young Simon Pegg.
Oh, right.
He showed up briefly in Dunkirk, and he had a major supporting role in Fighting with My Family that he was very good in.
You watched that?
Yeah, it
Okay.
was good. He's young Simon Pegg.
He really is.
So if you want Simon Pegg, who is a very quirky and fun actor, but yeah, he's a little too old to play young Willy Wonka, then here's your young Simon Pegg.
And yeah, and I forget when it was, but somewhere along the lines, like, because since we just recently watched World's End, like, that did pop into my head. Like, that's kind of a good example of a
Since
character
in that movie
who's-
there is a young Simon Pegg
Yeah.
that's not played by the person who should always play young Simon Pegg in every Simon Pegg movie.
But yeah, like, thinking like that's an example of like someone, like, if you give him a purple coat instead of a black coat and then a top hat, like, that's pretty close to a
See?
Willy Wonka type
See?
performance. Just make it all about chocolate, and then instead of drinking, and then dial back the efforts.
No, exactly.
Yeah, if
And
he's
just complete obsession.
yeah, like if he had a chocolate obsession as a kid, but then something about life got in his way, so then now he's finally breaking back out, and
because he
then-
never fully grew up.
Yeah, so now he's like, okay, now that I'm back in the world, I'm just going to complete all of my dreams and make a chocolate factory, and maybe you could have some characters that then he ropes back into it. Like, that formula would work really well.
And see, my hope is that you're able to come up with more than a few like solid original supporting characters too, like some colleagues and confidants that maybe they have a bitter falling out because he's Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
He's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, kind of a Social Network angle too. But yeah, as my top pick that everyone will already know because I put him on the thumbnail, because to me, I feel like the only right choice I can come up with right now that I am 100% on board with is Joe Keery. That everyone should know him from Stranger Things. He's Steve. Who is Steve? By the third season, Steve was easily the best thing about that show for me.
Yeah.
Which is very funny.
It's funny, like, twice now, Netflix has given us a Steve that in the first season I'm like, Steve, what's with Steve? Why Steve? Just what's he doing here? Oh, they're making Steve an actual character? Oh well. Then by the third season I'm like, no, Steve is the best. Steve is the universe of this show. Just
Between
more
that and
Steve.
Troll Hunters.
Yeah, that and Troll Hunters.
But to me, like, he's 28. So that is the perfect age where, again, in Stranger Things, like, are they still in high school?
Supposedly, I think so.
So
'cause, like,
he's
that
still
all-
playing high
It's
schoolers.
all technically supposed
and
to be in a year.
I can still buy that too. So you could have him play anywhere between 20 and 30 and it would be convincing. And he's very higher energy and fun, but he could still ground it in believability and reality when need be. Like that's how this role needs to go. That like it starts out like he's kind of getting sucked in with everyone else, that society's got to have him conform and you got to be a regular sane person with a sane job. Candy is a waste of time. And then have the crazy candy demon emerge
The crazy
slowly and believably throughout. And the funny thing is, this last year, he basically had a role like that I haven't seen because I wasn't sure if it was my type of movie.
The candy demon, the candy Heisenberg.
Yeah, you basically need to make him be Candy Heisenberg. No, exactly.
He's got his hat. It's not quite a top hat, but still.
He's got his look, that's for sure. Spree. He was in Spree, that follows a social media obsessed ride-hail driver who, in an attempt to become viral, begins filming himself murdering passengers. So again, someone who slowly devolves into torturing people.
Yeah.
Sounds about right. So yeah, I could definitely see him playing a rising candy entrepreneur that's full of the quirk.
The quirk.
You gotta have the quirk, man. And I feel like just in this day and age, for a role like that, you'd be hard pressed to see the studio cast like a complete up and comer that's like, who? Just been in one or two roles? Like, since he's linked to such a popular project as Stranger Things. So he'll have some amount of fan base because just anyone who's a big enough name who's that young, I feel like would probably be a horrible choice, like some pop star or whatever. But I'd be afraid to see who they'd try to find in that avenue. But like, you're not seeing as many like Leo types who like proved themselves at such a young age to just like appear in more and more and more prestige level movies, or like a young Christian Bale, or anything like that. Like Christian Bale in American Psycho would actually be a pretty good Willy Wonka.
Insert
Again,
that gif.
Yeah. Yeah, Wonka's a character who just slowly devolves into madness. Exhibit A, the creepy tunnel scene. Come on, guys.
Creepy
what?
Tunnel. Or
What?
alternatively, the cool tunnel.
Yeah, see? The thing about the creepy tunnel that doesn't work, that scene comes out of nowhere because the movie never officially sets up that that's the kind of world in which this movie exists, that this would just happen. So it's so out of nowhere. From scene 1, you know exactly what world Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is in.
Yeah. They introduce the Chocolate River. They're on the Chocolate River.
Yeah.
And, like,
everything plays out accordingly.
They have conversation on the boat before it gets into the tunnel.
Mm-hmm. That tunnel scene rocks.
Yes.
That music is amazing. But yeah, anything that proceeds throughout that movie is believable in that world they've created. Whether you're completely on board with those choices or not, that's up to you.
Yeah, that's the thing that bugs me about internet opinions. If you want to say this doesn't work, I don't like it, that's
That-
fine.
yeah, that's all
That
I want to
doesn't
hear.
equate to, oh, this movie sucks, that's the only way it is.
Mm-hmm. Usually I hate these takes, but I am willing to be a pretentious, rod up my butt a-hole critic with, well, you just don't understand Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, because honestly, most people don't.
They
It
don't
is
give it the
a
time of day.
terribly misunderstood movie.
Uh-huh.
I would like to go more into that in the future. I would be more than willing to do a complete step-by-step breakdown of that movie. All right, so kind of ironically, Warner Brothers is also planning for that same year, June 23, 2023, to release the Furiosa prequel origin.
Really?
So just months apart from each other. Again, for now, probably not. This will probably be dated very, very soon. But and again, since the popular opinion is kind of don't do prequels suck, these two projects are some of my most anticipated movies coming up in the next few years.
Uh-huh.
As is The Batman, which is technically another prequel, origin, reboot, new interpretation kind of deal.
It's funny that the closest we can get it to something new is just a new version of what we've already got.
Uh-huh. But again, like a lot of people tend to point out, like remakes aren't anything new.
Uh-huh.
Even, I saw this recently because I guess someone is trying to remake Wizard of Oz officially.
Huh.
But it doesn't have the kind of name attached to it like Wonka does that has me initially excited or on board. But like the original Wizard of Oz is a remake. There was a silent version of that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And ever since the OG version that everyone knows and loves came out, then everyone was like, don't remake that. That is a movie you could never remake. And that is another one, like my stance is always any idea can be done well. You could make an excellent 10 out of 10 groundbreaking Wizard of Oz remake. You just have to find someone who absolutely cares 100%. You have to find your Peter Jackson to make Lord of the Rings.
Have to find someone with enough
going all in.
vision,
vision
and enough passion
and know-how
to like do something. Like I would want something fairly different,
Yeah.
but still keeping the core spirit.
Because like things that movie is missing are like modern nuances. Like Dorothy's not the most complex character. You could portray her in a way that could make us really, really root for her without going the Alice in Wonderland. Oh, she's in a suit of armor. She's going to beat up the witch. Like,
Yeah,
no, don't do
like-
that. Just make her compelling.
And make it somewhat horror thriller where it's like
like Lord of the
she's-
Rings.
She's trapped in a world where she's on a mission, but everything is going wrong and she's being hunted by a witch.
Like you start out in Munchkinland, like the Shire, nice, happy, makes you feel peaceful, and then you get to the ringwraiths, the witches. I mean, why not? Why would you hold back from being horrific and scaring the crap out of kids when that's what the original's infamous for?
Yeah, just do the modern equivalent of that.
Yeah. Do it well, do it smart, do it creative. Don't do Oz the Great and Powerful. See, okay, now here's the thing. Like, in theory, like, Sam Raimi is a talented filmmaker.
That was Sam. I forgot that was
See?
Sam Raimi.
So when they first announced that and first saw the trailers, I'm like, okay, I have faith in Sam. And then somewhere along the way, just something
It's
happened,
like
something
another
terrible.
Guy Ritchie doing Aladdin. It's like,
Right.
oh,
No, that's right.
okay, so bring some of that Guy Ritchie flair. Oh, it's not
Sanitized
Guy,
Disney fluff.
It's not Guy Ritchie doing a Aladdin remake.
Those movies got almost
It's-
identical reception, too.
It's a Disney remake that they get to put Guy Ritchie's name on it.
But like the casting is the most egregious problem in that. So take that aside, and then like in theory, you've got the stepping stones for what could have worked. Like I've mentioned before, the basic premise of that idea is sound. If you're unwilling and too nervous about flat out remaking Wizard of Oz, go the prequel route. Who is the wizard? How did he get there? We don't really know that. Wouldn't we like to know that? That's not the worst idea. And if you want to do a similar thing like this in Wonka, but no way to do it well, I say go for it. I really like the idea of giving the wizard his own unique set of traveling companions that are very different from the Scarecrow, the Lion, and the Tin Man, but still emulate them. And it's familiar enough. Those aspects were easily the best thing about that, but then those by the end of the movie, those characters were lost.
Yeah.
Like, completely. Like, what happened with the Zach Braff monkey? What happened with the China doll girl?
They just kind of, they're there, and then they're sort of there.
Like, again, like, just the idea of the China doll girl, that he finds her, like, being the sole survivor of this completely decimated China village and pieces her back together. Like, that should be so incredibly heartfelt, and you should be absolutely rooting for this new character. I can't remember a single thing that character does after.
Yeah.
I've only seen the movie once, but I never wanted to see it again.
Really? Yeah.
And the thing with that story, you had to nail the witches. You had to make them great characters, and you didn't. So then your movie fails. You okay there, bud?
You didn't nail the witches. Instead, the wizard did.
Oh!
Ooh, you kiss your mother with that mouth?
I'll accept it.
I'm sorry.
That's really funny. So, in both looking forward to what else the world has in store for us concerning prequel origins, and also in the realm of what origin prequels based around fictional characters would we ourselves like to see. I feel like for the entire last year, I was always pitching to you, surely Disney wants to crank out more movies involving the Toy Story universe. But everyone's like, do we need more Toy Story movies? Like, 4 was good. Everyone, like, kind of universally accepted, okay, 4 wasn't bad, but maybe not push it with 5? And I was always like, the show Buzz Lightyear of Star Command exists. Like, that concept is out there. Buzz Lightyear is obviously a pre-established character in that universe. What if you just made a movie based around that persona that was like in the video game that they play in Toy Story 2 and stuff like that? Just an entire movie set in that world.
Yeah.
A epic family space adventure. Just if you're not willing to make WALL-E 2, then this feels like the next best thing. And I was like, I feel like they're sitting on a gold mine there. And then, hey, what do you know? Someone must have heard me, and now they're making that for 2022 as of right now. And the typical reaction I was seeing after that announcement was confusion. Like, to me, it seems so obvious. Everyone else was like, wait, okay, you're making a Buzz Lightyear movie, but he's not the Buzz character that we know. He's not going to be Tim Allen.
To me, that's the way you.
How do you?
That makes sense.
It's gonna be a human character. What? And I'm like, yeah. What?
Buzz is a toy of a character.
Wait, you're actually saying you think you're the Buzz Lightyear? Like, there's so many lines like that just set it up perfectly. And then I was always like, who are you gonna get to replace him? Like, I can't think of anyone that perfectly represents everything that Tim Allen brought to the role. And I don't think he does necessarily, but Chris Evans ain't a bad idea. Like, bringing
Was
that
the
Captain...
official
It's
casting?
official.
It's
Yeah.
the official. Okay.
Putting Captain America as Buzz Lightyear, that actually makes a lot of sense to me. Because I have no clue who else you get. But Toy Story 3 was over 10 years ago. Like, I was still in high school. When that movie came out, I was like, okay, Tim Allen's getting a little old for this. And then 10 years later, you made another movie, and I was like, oof. Like, like you can just tell when
he's tired.
Yeah.
Which I guess maybe that's why they didn't give Buzz anything to do.
Might have been. Oof. Yeah. See? And after Toy Story 4, I was just desperately
Justice for
wanting them
Buzz.
to give Buzz something to do. So give him his own movie, but like a fresh new take on that character. I'm intrigued. Like, even though it's still Disney going back into the franchise pit, so some are lambasting them for that, I am willing to accept it because it still has the potential to be a fresh new take on it. And again, it's not another Toy Story movie. It's an original space adventure, an adventure in space. Who doesn't want that? Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Like, seriously.
And yeah, and it's something that I've thought about before too, just the idea of how do you do prequels right? As a writer who's planning on doing a prequel at some point, hopefully.
That'd be nice.
It has been on my mind to try and think about those things.
Ain't no bad thing.
And one of the biggest hurdles that tends to cross is the character arcs, which is one of the biggest things with Solo that makes it so confusing, is that, like...
See, yeah, please.
Okay, in the original Star Wars, it sets him up as just the kind of rogue that doesn't care about anything until he finds something to fight for, and so then that's his arc. He goes from kind of a bad jerk to then now he's a hero with friends and a family. But then Solo, like, has so many layers of, like, no, he starts as a good guy and then he goes rough, but then he becomes a good guy again, and it's like, oh, whoa, how, what?
See, that movie needed to be a tragedy.
Yeah.
Like, fluffy, all about merchandising Disney. Like, you guys were willing to give Rogue One the ending that it had. So
Yeah.
that movie, like, yeah, just in terms for the sake of the story, it needed to have a real bummer of an ending that just hardened him.
Yeah, either just completely hardened
Broke
him
him
or just
to his
be
core.
willing, because like older movies used to do this, where you have
Back when they
characters
made good movies?
that are kind of jerks, but then are well written enough that they're interesting. Like what? Like the
For
first,
a few decades there, that's almost
the first
the
Toy
only
Story,
leading man archetype you'd see.
like the first Toy Story. Those characters are not nice to each other.
That's why it's amazing.
Woody is kind of a selfish jerk, but
exactly.
then it makes sense.
Because they changed so much by the end.
Yeah.
And then they're so inseparable and close.
Yeah. And so then, yeah, if you have something like that where if you had just the idea of, okay, yeah, Han Solo's just this young snot who's in the galaxy,
And they would just never be
doesn't
willing
care.
to make him that potentially
they never
unlikable.
We're going with that kind. They don't have balls. The mouse don't got no balls.
But again, what was the Phil and Lord version? Or the Lord and Miller version?
Exactly. I want to know what happened there.
Were they planning to do that? Because, like, someone involved was, like, very potentially worried about the direction they were taking the character in. But from what I've heard, they thought they were going too zany and like too Jim Carrey-esque. So that doesn't immediately seem like too much of a jerk.
Yeah,
it
but like
it makes me wonder.
could get the
what
point
was it?
across of like if someone doesn't care, so he's just kind
Like,
of goofy.
if he was being purposefully obnoxious, maybe like Jim Carrey, because that's usually what Jim Carrey does.
And because Han Solo is a little bit obnoxious in that first movie.
Laugh it up, fuzzball.
But yeah, like, and so it's kind of a similar situation. And working on the second draft of my book is a little tricky because of this too, where like in the beginning, like I had more of a caricature, but then those caricatures developed into better written characters, and then now
Nice.
I'm having trouble going back to that and portraying that arc. But yeah, he has a similar arc where he was kind of the side character anti-hero that then becomes more heroic later on.
Interesting.
And so I'm trying to figure out
How to get there.
how to get there. Yeah.
So any other potential characters you would like to see?
Yeah, it's
Given
one of those things I thought
origin
for
movie?
sure I would be able to come up with something. But
Yeah.
then like I said, this week went so fast that by the time I stopped to think about stuff, I'm like, oh shoot, there's either other stuff going on that I have to think about, or like I didn't really have much downtime until yesterday. And then I was like, oh, it's tomorrow. I'm just gonna let you talk. I need to rest.
You've gone through a bit this last week. You were getting your wisdom teeth out, so that wipes out anybody. But one that we've mentioned often, time and time again, like it's kind of a cheat because it already happened, but everyone universally says this movie sucks. So why not do it again, but better? The potential second coming of Wolverine.
Yes. Oh, yes.
The one thing everyone can agree is the best about X-Men Origins Wolverine is the opening credit scene, going through every major war in history up to that point. Just make a movie on that. Yeah. Everyone would see it. Gosh, everyone would see it. A gritty, R-rated, huge budget war movie with mutants.
Please.
And then what other? Surely there's other mutants in those wars too.
Yeah, and I've
that
always,
is a solid concept.
and I've always been interested in just the beginning, thinking of him, like, because now we all know that he can heal. But how did he figure that out at first? How did he know how to test his limits of, okay, what do I push myself to do just to see how much I can recover from? It's like, it's all like kind of gambling. So it'd be interesting to see what he went through in order to figure out his own powers. Another thing that popped into my head as an example, which I don't know if this counts because in terms of like movies, it's not a character that actually exists yet, so it doesn't make much sense for him to get a prequel. But Nick Valentine from Fallout 4.
No, I'll take it.
Yeah, just a robot private detective.
Come on, man.
Is investigating
that's all I need. That's all
a
I need.
zombified mob boss.
Oh. Why haven't we gotten this yet?
Please.
Okay, so doubling back for just a sec. Imagine, if you could, Emmett, a world where Disney and Marvel Studios don't necessarily own the rights to the X-Men. That maybe following the trajectory that was previously laid out by Fox post-Logan, letting X-Men movies being made that were gritty and R-rated and violent. Imagine that Wolverine origin concept directed by someone like Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu, who gave us The Revenant. Just give him the biggest budget. I'm still waiting. Like, we've gotten movies like Black Panther and Joker that were the first comic book movies to be nominated for Best Picture. And I just always feel let down because in my mind, a Best Picture worthy comic book movie is something like The Revenant with superheroes. Like
exactly.
That's told on such a big budget, grand scale where every element of the production is just impeccable and it's just game changing. It's groundbreaking. You've never seen anything like this. That, yeah, like just in the realm of superhero movies as a whole, like the one that got closest was Dark Knight, and that pretty much ticked all the boxes I needed.
Except the actual Oscar nomination.
Exactly. Yeah, it just burned so much that didn't get in. But like as wonderful as that movie is, I'm like, you could still go in completely different directions and
easily
be even better. So just wait and see if someone has the nerve to try something like that.
And I had another a casting thought.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just trying in these last few moments to rack my brain.
Yeah.
So I was going through like, okay, what British things do I know? I was trying to just pick a British franchise and then run through the list of actors. The first thing that popped in my head is Matt Smith.
See
that like again he'd be on the older side of a younger Willy Wonka, but he would definitely pull off the kind of weird but charming aspect of it.
You say that, and I'm just like, yeah, like if I saw that casting announcement tomorrow, I'd just be like, yeah, only makes sense. Yeah, he is right around that Andrew Garfield, Donal range.
Which I did not realize Andrew Garfield was quite that old, but I guess it makes sense.
Okay, so that's about all we've got for the potential of Wonka. Could be terrible, could be good. I guess we'll
really
find out along the way. Check back in a couple years and see how it went, I guess. But as cynical as I often am, I try to be optimistic when I can.
Yeah.
But
like when you get that glimmer of hope, then you're like, oh, this has potential. Please give it to me.
If they nail the casting, that'll be one step closer to getting something good. But yeah, let us know. Are you on the same page? Did we change your mind?
I know, because you definitely sold me more than I realized.
Hooray!
I was sold.
Well, can mark one notch under the table then of the new Wonka. What's the word I'm looking
for? The Wonka prequel proselyte.
Proselyte. Fancy.
So in other words, preach, brother!
All right, we'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.
Good day, sir!